take my video off, which I'm going to do. I'm going to stop my video, leave it on that screen, and then I'll be able to concentrate on all the papers and other things I have in front of me. So my video off. Say it again?
Sorry, that was just you.
Oh,
The stream's got a lag. You just heard your own voice, I think.
All right, let's do the best we can here. So I'm ready to go if you're ready to go. Are we ready?
Ready.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. There is a special meeting. I'm calling the special meeting of the Waltham City Council public hearing this evening, which is Monday, November 23rd, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. This is a meeting for classification. And so I will open the meeting and the clerk will call the roll.
George A. Darcy III.
Present.
Karen Dunn.
Present.
Sean T. Durkee.
Present.
Kathy Ann Harris.
Present.
Joseph P. LaCava.
Present.
Anthony LaFosse.
Present.
Randall J. LeBlanc.
Present.
Christine A. Mackin.
Present.
John J. McLaughlin.
Present.
Kathleen B. McMenamin.
Present?
Patrick J. O'Brien.
Present.
Jonathan Paz.
Present.
Thomas M. Stanley.
Present.
Carlos A. Vidal.
Present.
President Paul J. Brasco is absent. 14 present, 1 absent.
Before I ask us to stand and ask the clerk to recite the council prayer, I would like to ask the members of the City Council to pause for a minute and remember Councilor Brasco, who is attending the 20th anniversary service for the death of his mother, Mrs. Brasco, the most beautiful woman. And so I'd like to ask for a moment of silence to remember her. Thank you very much. Councilor Brasco will join us after the memorial service for his mother. Please stand. The clerk will recite the council prayer.
Almighty God, we ask thy guidance in all our deliberations. Please remain standing while the City Council President leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilor Durkee, would you lead us in a moment of silence for the veterans?
Yes. I would ask for a moment of silence for all our troops serving in Afghanistan and Iraq and all over the world supporting them, especially for those that have given the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom.
Thank you very much, Councilor Durkee. You may all be seated. This meeting is being conducted via Zoom. It is being transmitted live on the City of Waltham YouTube channel and on the Waltham Community Access Corporation MAC channel, channel 43 for Verizon subscribers, channel 98 for Comcast subscribers, and channel 15 for RCN subscribers. Those interested in testifying should email Assistant City Clerk Joseph Vizard at jvizard@city.waltham.mass.us. Just a minute, please. To the members of the City Council and all other interested parties, the purpose of tonight's meeting is relative to the classification and the residential factor which will be used by the Board of Assessors to determine the percentage of the tax levy to be borne by each class of the real estate and personal property tax for the fiscal year 2021. Counselor Harris moves to hear from all off-committee members this evening. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. The items must be voted on. The items that we have, the agenda items, will be voted on in the order that I have listed. Roll calls are required on each vote, and there are 9 roll calls. Our City Assessor, Attorney Frank Craig, will present information. Justin Barrett, who is the chair of the CPA, or his representative, but I see Mr. Barrett here, will testify, and Paul Centofanti, who is our city auditor, will be available to answer questions. Based on that, Attorney Assessor, Mr. Craig, would you begin, please?
Yes, thank you, Councilor McMahon. And thank you, members of the City Council. We're here for our annual rate setting hearing. The difference this year is that we are here on a recertification year. Every 5 years, the Department of Revenue does a statistical analysis of our assessing program, and they have to certify it as being accurate with respect to values. They check our tables, they check our sales to assessment ratios, they ensure that we're tracking all the construction and new growth, ensure that we're equitably distributing the tax burden, that we have a mass assessing program that is satisfactory, and that we have a GIS system that allows maps to be accessed by the public. All those things have been done. We have been given preliminary certification by the Department of Revenue. That allows us to then hold this rate hearing. Our obligation now is that DOR cannot approve our tax rate unless we have City Council has a public hearing and adopts the percentages of the local levy to be borne by each class. So that will bring us to our sheet that has been distributed to all city councilors. It's entitled the recap sheet for 2021. On the sheet at the very top is our tax levy that we're obligated to raise through taxing of real estate and personal property. The issue with respect to the shift appears really in the middle of the page. It's column 6 is the title of it, and it's the CIP, meaning commercial, industrial, and personal property. The amount that group of taxpayers can carry is the maximum is 175% of that which they would be paying were there no shift. So we start with that figure. We have it in at 174.96%. Having entered that value, it then calculates the lowest residential factor, which you see up at the top on the right-hand side on the same level as the tax levy. That is the minimum amount that the residential properties can pay in order to stay within the law and stay within the shift requirements. With those two parameters in place, the tax rate at the residential, for residential property is $11.32. You see that highlighted on the left-hand side on column 1. The resulting commercial tax rate, commercial, industrial, and personal property, is $23.08. So post-shift, you'll see moving back up to the top of the sheet, you can see prior to the shift, residential would normally pick up 66.5%. And after the shift, residential is picking up 41.5%. The commercial is then picking up 58.5%. So that is the lowest residential factor. In addition, we have to determine the residential exemption. The number of parcels that we have in the residential stock is 15,011. And if we have the residential exemption the same as last year, it's 35%. There are 11,727 properties that would qualify for that residential exemption. And the residential exemption dollar amount would be $230,450. That is calculated separately. It's essentially just dividing the number of the residential parcels into the total amount of residential value. So you would divide that 15,011 into that valuation of 9,883,000,000 that you see on the residential line in the center of the page. So the $230,450 is the residential exemption. You take that out of our taxing pool. So you multiply that residential exemption by the qualified parcels and you get the 2,702,000 that's just next to that residential exemption number. So that being removed from the tax, available taxable property leaves you with the net value after residential exemption that you see on that residential line of 7,181,000. Moving further down the page, you can see that with the residential exemption, the tax rate is $11.32 per thousand. If there were no residential exemption, the tax rate would be $8.22 for the residents. So that is a tax differential of $3.10. The average valuation of single-family residence in Waltham this year is $612,471. Removing the residential exemption from that value gives you an average valuation of $382,021. You multiply that times the tax rate that we're considering here of $11.32, and you get a tax amount of $4,324.48. That represents an increase of $71.51 from the average tax bill of last year, which you can see in the row just to the right of that, where it says fiscal year 2020. You can see last year that the average tax bill was $4,252.97. So that differential is $71. Moving on to the next page, the average single-family valuation is the title of it. There are 8,731 single-family homes. If we apply that 35% residential exemption with the tax rate, you get a tax bill amount for the average single-family home of $4,324.48. That means that the residential exemption has reduced that average tax bill by $71.51. You'll see on the next page, it's demonstrated. It demonstrates how the shift takes place within the residential properties. So this third page is entitled Fiscal Year 2021 Residential Exemption Tax Analysis. And it has the break-even value there at $841,400. So at that dollar value of an assessment value of your house, there is no difference in the tax bill that you receive, whether there's a residential exemption or not. Those properties that are above that value begin to see a diminishing return from the residential exemption. Those properties that are below that value get a benefit. Out of 8,731 residential properties, single-family residential properties, 720 of those are the ones that would be above 841,400. So that's about 8.2%. So 91.8% of the single-family homes see a benefit from the residential shift, residential exemption. The fourth page is the dividing out into the neighborhoods that we have provided every year to try and give you an idea of how it distributes amongst the city. You'll see on this page that the wards that are associated with each of those neighborhoods are indicated in the second column. You'll see a map on the page that follows this that shows you the colors where each of these neighborhoods are located. This sheet gives you information with respect to the number of houses that are sold in each neighborhood, what their average price was, our assessment to sale to assessment ratio. This ratio is required by law to be between 90% and 110%. Typically in a year of a recertification like this year, our assessment ratio tends to be higher than it is when we're not in a recertification year. You'll see that our assessment ratios here are closer to mid 90 to high 90%. That's because there's a calculation that Department of Revenue requires during a certification year, and it's called a land residual valuation, but it comes into play with respect to where we have to be on our assessment ratio, and it makes it a little higher than it has been like last year, for example. The next column is just the average value of the houses in that neighborhood. And then the last column being the percent increase by neighborhood of the assessed values over the city. They're pretty well grouped. Two outliers would be 5% increase, and then the high is a 10% increase. Otherwise, the rest are between 6 and 9 for the most part. And last page in the packet has been organized a little bit differently than we've provided in the past. It's the list of all the top taxpayers, but what we've done is we put together, instead of just the highest taxed property, we put all the properties owned together by their owner. And so you get a look at how much taxes are being paid by the highest paying taxed property owners. And at the very top, Boston Properties, they have 16 parcels in the city, and they carry about 9.28% of the total levy. And you see the bigger taxpayers: Hobbs Brooks, Davis Companies, Alexandria Real Estate, and Duffy Brothers. At the very top, the top 7 make up about 25% of the tax levy. We thought this was a more helpful way to present it rather than last year where we just listed it by the highest particular parcel. I wanted to give you a little bit of information about what's happening in the city real estate wise. There were 2 really big purchases or sales and purchases in Waltham of commercial property in recent months. In April of 2020, 200 Smith Street, which you might know as the Post, it sold for $320 million, and that was a price per square foot of $750. Just for perspective, the closest one this quarter to that value was a building on State Street that sold at $800 per square foot. So State Street, Boston. So those are obviously pretty significant numbers. Has been noted that that sale was likely in the pipeline before the pandemic hit, because this, it took place so shortly after the pandemic hit in March. However, there's been a more recent sale in August 26th of 2020. We have 40 and 60 Sylvan. It's a property where digital used to be. It's 512,000 square feet. Alexandria Properties purchased that for $330 million. That was $644 per square foot price. So that is a pretty significant investment, and that was at a time where the pandemic was already pending. The periodicals and the research are essentially saying that the properties that have lab capabilities are very much holding their value and are extremely needed, and particularly in this area. So there's a lot of investment happening in that, and we're not the only town. Watertown has had a lot of investment in the labs as well, particularly by Alexandria. They're buying up a lot of property in the Northeast, and actually nationwide, I should say. You all know that 225 Wyman Street is a building that's in the works. It's going to be a 500,000 square foot office/lab space. They've already demolished the other building and have started to erect the steel that's in place. The first building permit that I saw had a cost assessment of the construction at $159 million. And that's just going to be for the structure in the exterior edifice. On the residential side, I'm sure you're all aware there's a 40B construction that's beginning on 195 units at 341 Second Avenue. That is expected to come on in 2021, I believe. It's expected to be coming on, but it might be 2022 because of delays with the pandemic. But that's the major portion of what's transpiring in the city. I wanted to let you know a little bit about kind of the migration of our housing stock. And it's true each year, and so I just want to update you again this year. We netted one additional single-family home, and I say netted because there were probably 35 constructed, but you take away from that all single-family homes that would have been demolished, either to build a 2-unit condo or because they were sitting on 2 lots. So you build a house, but you really only gain one in our count. But we net out only 1+, which tells you that a lot of houses are being knocked down and converted to condominiums. It's borne out as well by the 2 families, which have decreased by 15 in number, and the 3 families that have decreased by 2 in number, and the condominiums have increased by 49. So you can see the migration of property that's going from multifamilies and single families being converted into condominiums. The current market on the condominiums is extremely high. We're starting to see now, not unusual to see condominiums that are selling in the $900,000 area. So that is providing an incentive for purchasers to buy multifamilies, and they're not purchasing really with the idea of renting. So they're not really interested in what you can get for rents and how many bedrooms and so forth. They're really just being calculated based on what they're going to be able to get when they sell the condos at the end of the process. So that does have an effect of putting an upward pressure on our multifamilies, which has been evident in the valuations. But I think for now, that's as much as I wanted to present, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Sorry, Attorney Craig,
Yes,
how long have you been our assessor?
about 2.5 years.
Well, that was an outstanding presentation. That was about as good as I've seen, and congratulations to you. So now I'm going to go to questions, and the first counselor who had their hand raised was the Finance Chair, Councilor Carver.
Thank you, Madam Dean. Thank you, Attorney Craig, for presenting with us today.
My
A few
pleasure.
questions to go through based on your presentation. You mentioned there was just over 15,000 residential parcels, which 11,727 qualify. Based off the 8,000 and some single 8,731 single families, that difference of 2,000, just under 3,000, that includes the condos, owner-occupied multifamilies and such as well?
Exactly, that's right.
Okay, so that leaves a little over 3,000 residential parcels that don't qualify. So that's obviously large multifamilies, et cetera. Out of that number, do you know how many units there are? Assuming one parcel could be anywhere from 1 to 10 units?
Yes, I haven't calculated that number, no.
Okay. And a few other questions, please bear with me. The $11.32 tax rate that we get is put forward with the residential exemption, obviously being $8.22 if there isn't a residential exemption. Would the commercial tax rate change if there wasn't to be a residential exemption? Would that go down as well?
It would not, because this shift takes place before we apply the residential exemption. So that shift would have maxed out to the commercial side. And then when you have that pool of residential, you determine whether you're going to shift that up by doing the residential exemption. So it would not affect the commercial.
Great, that's very helpful.
And just so you know, the commercial rate is dropping from $24.36 last year to $23.08. So more than $1.30 or so.
Great, thank you. Those are just my questions for now. I think I have a couple more, but I'll let others at this time. Thank you, Attorney Craig.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor Carver. When all questions have been asked and answered, I will return back to you for, as the Finance Chair, for the votes necessary to take, if that's okay with you. Moving on, the next person I have on my list is Councilor Mackin.
Thank you. So I hope I can be brief in the interest of time, and I'm going to get right into my questions. So the revenue picture that we were talking about during the budget hearings, is that forecast still accurate 6 months into this fiscal year?
I know the auditor is on the call, so I would defer most of those revenue questions to him. The one thing I do know is that the levy was estimated higher in the budget. It was going to be 279 million. I'm sorry, the levy was 198 million, and that got adjusted subsequently, and I believe, due to some revenue adjustments that took place after the estimate. But I think Paul Santafonte would address that.
If you don't mind, I would really appreciate that. Thank you both.
Good evening, Councilor Mackin. So as you may recall, when the operating budget was established back in June, there were three significant revenue sources for the general fund. property taxes, state aid, and local receipts. And due to the economic climate, we estimated that both state aid and local receipts were going to be severely diminished for this coming year. But at the time, the state had not finalized its budget nor determined what the final state aid number was going to be. And as I mentioned at the budget hearing, when we set the tax rate in November, it's sort of the second bite of the apple in terms of finalizing our revenue stream. So we had estimated state aid to be about $20.3 million. Actually came in at $26 million. So we had an excess revenue of $6.7 million.
Awesome.
Which we then distribute that, $5.7 million, I'm sorry. We then distribute that amongst our other revenue sources. So we took 700,000 in round numbers and added that to our overlay account. We took $3 million and reduced the tax levy from almost 199 million down to $96 million. And when we adopted the budget, it was based on using $4.5 million of reserves to balance the budget. We took the remaining $2 million and reduced that reserve need to $2.5 million.
Okay.
So, again, your question is that the revenue stream that we used when we adopted the budget has changed significantly, primarily due to the increase in state aid.
Okay. Fantastic. And then this is a big picture question that I want to put in as clear a framing as possible for my constituents and for everybody in the community. It looks to me, reading through all of the budget the documents that we were presented, that the rate is going down, but the average taxed bill is going up by $71.51. I just want to put that as simply as I can. Is that correct?
Yes, it is correct.
Great, thank you. And people who want to anticipate their tax bill for next year, what's the best way for them to get that information?
Right now, we have already posted the valuations for fiscal year 2021. And it was part of our process of certification. And we put up a public notice on our website indicating that people can take a look at those values now.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
That is all of my questions. Thank you both for the very thorough presentation tonight and for taking the time to be with us.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Council Mackin. Next on my list is Council Vidal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Sister Craig, for being here tonight and for your very thorough presentation. I was very pleased with seeing all the information that you have provided us. Now, I want to just quote something that you said. I just want to confirm that I got this right. You mentioned that 91.8% of single-family properties were the ones who will benefit from this tax exemption. Is that correct?
Yes.
Go ahead.
There's 720 single-family homes that are above that break-even number of 841,400.
Okay.
So when there's a total number of single-family homes is 8,731. So it does work out to be 8.2% that does not get a benefit, and the resulting 91.8% get a benefit.
Understood. All right. Thank you. I just want to confirm that that is correct. So I was going through, I know there's a lot of numbers you throw it at us. I want to make sure that I got it right. Thank you. The other question that I had, I know you mentioned that our stock of single families have only gone up one number. I mean, I guess property, you can call it, correct?
It nets one more single-family home this year than we had last year.
Okay. Now, during your presentation, you stated things about properties being torn down and new properties coming up. So multifamilies becoming singles or single families becoming condos and so on. Now, looking at your map, the one with all the numbers and the ends, the end 12s and then 8s and whatnot. As I see N13, Is there any way you can tell me where are you seeing the increments? Because I'm seeing a lot of this scenario that you're mentioning in my neck of the woods, the south side, as multis are being torn down and being built into condos. Are you seeing any particular trends when it comes to neighborhoods within Waltham that this is going through?
I did go through and compare last year's numbers to this year's numbers by neighborhood. And N13 loses only one net single-family home from 383 to 382. There's a net gain of 4 single-family homes in neighborhood N3, which is the Lakeview area of Hardy Pond. And there's a net loss of 2 neighborhood N10, which is not far from City Hall over here near Lyman Street. Otherwise, it's fairly well distributed across the city. There's -1s and -2s and 1+2. And the significance of that to me is that there's really becoming less and less of a distinguishment between neighborhoods in the city. You'll see anything that's new sells for $1 million+, and it doesn't necessarily matter where it is in the city. They're in Lakeview on College Farm Road. There was one home standing on what was subsequently divided into 3 lots. And they were new single-family homes, and one sold for $1.3 million, and the other one sold for 1.1. And you know, that's a large number for that part of the city, but you're seeing it really throughout the city. The new houses, the neighborhood lines are really blurring, and there's not a lot of distinguishment between neighborhoods any longer. And when you're comparing a new house, you're comparing it to another new house that could be on the other side of the city because of the square footage, all of the accoutrements that it might have, and number of baths, and number of bedrooms and those things, and whether or not it has 2-car garage underneath. So you definitely see a lot less. We've become, it's really been mollified. The neighborhoods have been really, they're much less significant now. The houses are similar all over the city.
Okay, thank you very much. And one last question that I had regarding the last page. Just want to reiterate what you stated. You mentioned that the top 7 companies on that list make up 25% of the total levy for the city. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
so
right.
We're looking from Boston Properties all the way down to AstraZeneca. Is that right?
Just one above AstraZeneca.
Sorry, one above. I did my, yep. All right. All right. So that's 25% of our levy comes from these 7 companies, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Those were my only questions. Thank you, Mr. Craig. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, Councilor Vidal. Thank you. My next person on the list is Councilor LaFosse.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening. Just a quick question. You had mentioned that the personal tax levy was going to go up by $71.51, but the commercial was going to be dropping by almost $1. Is there a reason for that?
So I might have said it in a fashion that wasn't straightforward. The $71.51 increase is the average tax bill on the average single-family home. Distinguished from that is the tax rate, so the amount per thousand. It's going down on the residential side and the commercial side. The residential tax rate of for 2020 was $11.95, and that's going down to $11.32 under this scenario. The commercial went from $24.36 to $23.08. So they're both rates are dropping.
All right, thank you. No further questions.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Councilor LaFosse. I'm looking to see, is the attorney on the that I see on the screen. Is he here to speak on this matter or on another matter? Clerk Vazad, do you know?
I believe he's here for the later meeting. I don't believe.
Okay,
he's here to
fine.
speak to the public hearing.
Thank you. Okay,
Can I get added to the list?
I'm sorry?
May I get added to the list as Councilor LeBlanc?
Where are you? Oh, Councilor LeBlanc, you'd like to, yes, I'll hear from you. You're next. Councilor LeBlanc.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dean. Question for Mr. Craig. In the residential tax shift, I think it said that there was 720 houses. And my curiosity or my question is, does the tax shift increase, does that apply to 2, 3, and 4 family houses?
Yes, they're included in the residential pool of taxpayers.
Okay, so the tax increase does go on to the 2, 3, and 4 families houses, which will then increase the cost of operation on all the rental units. Is that correct?
Yes, that the residential exemption does shift the tax burden to the higher valued properties.
So that's on basically on all the rental units. So that would increase then in turn the cost of operation on all the rental units, which the rents are already expensive, could potentially increase rents. Is that correct?
I would think that the tax obligation of the owner is something that they take into consideration when they're fixing their rents. Yeah,
All right. Thank you very much. No further questions.
you're welcome.
So, Councilor LaCava, second time around, please.
Thank you, Madam Dean. Yeah, to go off the counselor from Linden Circle's question, that's what I was going to come back to. Knowing that your office spends time tabulating rents and such through the city, have you seen an increase in rental unit pricing over the last year? Have you seen for 2, 3, 4 bedroom rental units, have you seen an increase knowing that you guys do go out there and tabulate rents and try to put together formulas?
Yes, there's definitely an increase in the rents that property owners are able to charge. One thing I would bring to your attention is that a lot of the data that we're able to collect on the price that rentals are, realtors or real estate owners are getting on rentals comes from the higher end properties, because they'll have accountants who will respond to our request for income and expense information, and they'll just send you a copy of their profit and loss statement, and you can get a real understanding of how much the higher end properties in the larger apartment complexes, how much they're getting for a 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, and number of baths and so forth. Compliance with getting that information from smaller entities is less robust, so that the data on the smaller properties is more sparse. But it's not only data that we get from recovering I&Es, there's also data that we get from sources that are commercially available. You know, we subscribe to CoStar, and they keep track of what's happening in the region. And so that's where the data comes from. You know, a lot of it is from returns, but then it also comes from experts in the market. And that's how our mass assessing program has tables that determine what the city of Waltham really gets for single bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and so forth. And that's how it gets spread out evenly across the entire real estate pool that is rental real estate.
Great. So you kind of answered my next question with the final statement there, but do you think the fact that a lot of, say, 1 or 2 unit landlords aren't responding to your questionnaire, do you feel that, are you using the data from the larger corporations to see what they're getting for rent to then put value on a four-family, say on Robin Street? And do you think that negatively affects the smaller landlords for them by not answering your requests?
I would agree that it'd be helpful if the smaller landlords sent in the data so that we would know exactly what is happening on the small units. But even without the data being provided, everyone's aware that, you know, you're not competing one-to-one with large commercial enterprises or the high-end luxury apartments that are being constructed. So there's definitely taken into consideration the age of the building, you know, building permits, how much improvements have been made. There's depreciation that goes into place. So, you know, there is a lot that we do to make sure that it gets buffered. But the point of your question is well taken, that the more data we get, the better. And particularly from the smaller property holders, and that gets fed into the mass assessing program and can help with those statistics, you know, that can bring those values down.
Great. Thank you again, Attorney Craig.
Thank you.
I'm all set, Madam Dean.
Thank you, Councilor Carver. Do I see that President Paul Brasco has joined the meeting? Would the clerk call the president, Council President, please?
Paul J. Brasco.
Present.
Thank you very much. If I could ask Councilor Brasco to take the chair for just a couple of questions that I have. I'll make them as brief as I can. I have a lot, but I'll try and only get to the ones I really want, and then I'll bring it back because I have a list of people who are going to move approval on some of these things. Councilor Brasco, will you take the chair, please?
Yes, I will, Vice President McMenamin. Vice President McMenamin, you have the floor.
So, Attorney Craig, this is a recertification year. The next recertification is in what year?
5 years from now, so it would be in 2025.
2025. Now, can I ask you, on the sheet that you gave us, that gives us the second sheet that talks about, hang on just a minute here, if I can find it here. The sheet that talks about the residential exemption percentage being at 35%. When did we go to 30? When did we move from 20% to 30% to 35%? What year did we do that?
The last time it was at 20% was in 2016, and then it went up 5% each of 3 years until 2019, when it was set at 35%, which is the maximum allowed by the law. And it's been 35%, 19, 20, and suggested for 21.
So now, politically, and on the face of things, that 35% makes we, the elected officials, politically, makes us look very proactive residential people, single-family home owner. It makes us look very positive in their eyes. Am I correct?
Yes, I can tell you that there's only 13 communities in the state that have the residential exemption, and only 3 of those have it at 35, Somerville, Boston, and us. But we have the right mix of commercial and residential in order to be able to carry that, because we're really lower in our tax rate on the commercial properties. So most towns, cities and towns don't have the commercial real estate to be able to carry that. But we carry it, but we still aren't, we are still lower than our competing other cities and towns that do have commercial that.
Oh, can I ask you, I get that, but can I ask you, is there a point where diminishing returns comes into play here?
I'm not sure if I know that, honestly. You know, I don't know, I don't think that there's any dissuasion on commercial to not pick Waltham because, we still have a very competitive tax rate. I think it's something that I speak to a lot of the larger apartment, the REITs who are investing in large apartment complexes are always happy to learn that they're getting a residential tax rate and they're not, they're getting at 1132 and not getting at that 2304 or 03. So for them, it's an attractive thing for purchasing complexes in Waltham.
Okay, yeah, I'm not quite sure I agree with that, but okay. So let me move on, if you will, to the page that has the page with the residential real estate tax analysis, being the $0 increase, decrease of, with the assessed value at 841.4.
Yes.
So using that, what I see here in the formula and the graphs and the chart on this page, with the 720 houses above that $0 and 8,731 below that dollar. If you go to the next page, if I'm not mistaken, last year, using the map, which I assume is the same map as last year's, this year, N9, which is wards 5-1 and 2, 6-1 and 6-2, and 9-1, which are basically, although 6-1 and 6-2 is just a little bit on the north of Main Street, the length of Main Street east to west, but 5-1 and 5-2 and 9-1 are on the other side of Main Street. And that increase, excuse me, for that district is the largest increase in the chart here. Last year, I think that, can you tell me what district had the largest number last year?
Yes, I can.
I'm sorry, I really wish I had a lot more time here because I have to take some votes, but that's okay.
So last year, neighborhood 3, 4, and 5 saw 10 and 11% increases, as did neighborhood 9 and 10 and 12 and 13. And so last year, the increases were much closer to 10 on average. There was only a few that weren't 10 and above. There was a couple at 9 and a couple at 8 and one at 7. So in general, all the neighborhoods.
5, which is Ward 1, 2, basically is getting a much smaller increase at 5%.
Yes, and the difficulty in using the figure where you have, well, there's only 2 sales there, so it's a little difficult to do that sales to assessment ratio, but the 5% increase still has their average value at $1,065,000.
Yes, which is, that brings me to my next question when you said the average sales. So I've had, over the years, had people say to me, how do you come up with neighborhood valuations, and how is my number higher than somebody who lives 3 streets away from me? And how does that all happen? Can you give sort of a synopsis of how you calculate who's going to be assessed what, please?
Yes, and as I was saying a bit earlier to Councilor Vidal, it's the neighborhood's distinguishments has become much more blurred. So a lot of times your neighbor that you're speaking to, their house will be compared to a house that isn't even in your neighborhood because it carries all the same characteristics. It might be the same age, might have the same number of bedrooms, might have this, a 2-car garage underneath, it might have vinyl siding and the fireplace or not. So all of those things go into comparing properties, and they really don't stick to neighborhoods anymore because they're not that different. And so this is a little bit arbitrary when we try to divide it up into these neighborhoods and then give meaning to these numbers. it's not a sheet that I think is terribly helpful because of that. It's, our neighborhoods aren't the way they used to be. There maybe was a much more of a distinguishing factors between neighborhoods that had very high value houses and those that were low. That's kind of disappearing.
And I'm gonna end it with my last comment. Then I'm gonna take the chair back from Council Brasco. This also leads to some questions, which I think I'm going to have to invite you in next year for some clarification, maybe for some discussion, because with the blurring of the neighborhoods and the no longer distinct neighborhoods as they were, and large multifamily homes being built in neighborhoods that were previously somewhat single-family homes, all of those changing demographic infrastructure characteristics are also very significant for what we have existing on our overlay maps, such as where our police and fire stations are, where our schools are for the populations that are changing based on the housing that is changing, and creating a new definition, if you will, for a neighborhood. All of those kinds of things are somewhat unpredictable. And so I'm going to have to leave it at this because I have votes to take, but I think we're going to have to bring you in this year to talk to you about the changing numbers and neighborhoods in the city. And that's okay with you, is it, Attorney Craig?
Absolutely, anytime.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Are there any more questions? And if not, I'm going to have to go to some votes here.
Madam President Pro Tem, this is the city clerk. I just want to, I know you're aware of this, but it is a public hearing, and I don't know if anyone's on the line, but it does have to be opened up for public comment before you close the hearing and go to the votes.
Thank you. I don't have that here. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I do. But so the presentation has been made, and are there any public comment and questions that anybody, I'm sorry, it has to be this way on Zoom, that anybody might have for us? No? Hearing none. Do I have to close the public hearing, Council Waddick? Clerk Waddick?
Yes, I believe you do.
Yes. So at this time, I will entertain a motion from Councilor Carver to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Now, we have a number of items to address and a number of votes to be taken. And so I'm going to ask the first 3-4 votes will be offered by the clerk of the Long-Term Debt Committee, Councilor Darcy. So Councilor Darcy makes a motion on the Community Preservation Act FY 2021 surcharge allocation, and roll call has to be taken on all of these, of $3,200,000. The clerk will call the roll.
George A. Darcy III.
Yes.
Karen Dunn.
Yes.
Sean T. Durkee.
Yes.
Kathy Ann Harris.
Yes.
Joseph P. LaCava.
No.
Anthony LaFosse.
Yes.
Randall J. LeBlanc.
Yes.
Christine A. Mackin.
Yes.
John J. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Patrick J. O'Brien.
Yes.
Jonathan Paz.
Yes.
Thomas M. Stanley.
Yes.
Carlos A. Vidal.
Yes.
Paul J. Brasco.
No.
Does the President Pro Tem, Kathleen B. McMenamin, wish to vote?
No. So by your vote, you have allocated Community Preservation Act FY 2021 surcharge at $3,200,000. The next vote is Councilor Darcy makes a motion on the Community Preservation Act FY 2020 for unallocated reserve allocation of $1,789,415.71. The clerk will call the roll.
George A. Darcy III,
Yes.
Karen Dunn,
Yes.
Sean T. Durkee,
Yes.
Kathy Ann Harris,
Yes.
Joseph P. LaCava,
No.
Anthony LaFosse,
Yes.
Randall J. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Christine A. Mackin,
Yes.
John J. McLaughlin,
Yes.
Patrick J. O'Brien,
Yes.
Jonathan Paz,
Yes.
Thomas M. Stanley,
Yes.
Carlos A. Vidal,
Yes.
Paul J. Brasco,
No.
By your action, you have approved that allocation. The next vote we need to take, Councilor Darcy makes a motion on the Community Preservation Act FY 2020 state match allocation for $912,883. The clerk will call the roll.
On the
Jay
motion?
Darcy,
Second, can we,
On the motion.
wait a minute, on the motion, can you read the amount again?
$912,883 state match allocation for FY 2020.
Thank you.
You're welcome. On the motion, Councilor LaCava.
Thank you, Madam Dean. On the motion, this question is for, if Mr. Barrett or the clerk or Mr. Senafani can answer this question. What is the $912,833? What is the percent match from the state? What is that as in percentage?
It's about 25%.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Now, I believe last year we received about 11% match. I'm right around that. I apologize.
I think you're close.
Yeah,
Yes.
the number in front of me. Now, could we just get a quick rundown of how the state was able to raise more funds and to raise their match percentage?
Well, at the end of the year last year, they allotted 25 million to the CPC participants. That was divided up in however many cities and towns were involved, and then I believe, and Councilor Stanley may be able to correct me, I believe they upped the rate at the Registry of Deeds on the surcharge of the passings, the real estate passings.
Yes, I believe that rate was raised 150%, if I'm not mistaken.
That I don't know.
Yeah, I believe it's right around 150% raise. Okay, Mr. Barrett, again, I thank you for your time and being here with us this evening.
My
Are you
pleasure.
finished, Councilor?
I'm finished.
Let me
Thank
ask
you.
you a question. Am I finished?
Not yet. Sorry.
Okay.
Hang on just a minute, please. Thank you. Councilor Darcy moves under the Community Preservation Act for FY 2019, the state match allocation of $296,739. Clerk will call the roll.
I don't think we voted on the 912,883 yet, Madam.
Sorry, please,
President Pro
I'm sorry.
Tem.
You're right. Please, would you, clerk will call the roll on that.
George A. Darcy III,
Yes.
Karen Dunn,
Yes.
Sean T. Durkee,
Yes.
Kathy Ann Harris,
Yes.
Joseph P. LaCava,
Yes, gotta take their money.
Anthony LaFosse,
Yes.
Randall J. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Christine A. Mackin,
Yes.
John J. McLaughlin,
Yes.
Patrick J. O'Brien,
Yes.
Jonathan Paz,
Yes.
Thomas M. Stanley,
Yes.
Carlos A. Vidal,
Yes.
Paul J. Brasco,
Yes.
By your action, you have approved that allocation. And the next allocation of the CPA is FY 2019 state match allocation of $296,739. Clerk will call the roll.
George A. Darcy III,
Yes.
Karen Dunn,
Yes.
Sean T. Durkee,
Yes.
Kathy Ann Harris,
Yes.
Joseph P. LaCava,
Yes.
Anthony LaFosse,
Yes.
Randall J. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Christine A. Mackin,
Yes.
John J. McLaughlin,
Yes.
Patrick J. O'Brien,
Yes.
Jonathan Paz,
Yes.
Thomas M. Stanley,
Yes.
Carlos A. Vidal,
Yes.
Paul J. Brasco,
Yes.
14 in favor.
By your action, you have approved that state match allocation. Councilor LaCava, do I assume you're going to move the appropriation from unreserved fund balance?
Yes, Madam Dean.
So that motion is to move the unreserved fund balance of $2,500,000. The clerk will call the roll.
George A. Darcy III.
Yes.
Karen Dunn.
Yes.
Sean T. Durkee.
Yes.
Kathy Ann Harris.
Yes.
Joseph P. LaCava.
Yes.
Anthony LaFosse.
Yes.
Randall J. LeBlanc.
Yes.
Christine A. Mackin.
Yes.
John J. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Patrick J. O'Brien.
Yes.
Jonathan Paz.
Yes.
Thomas M. Stanley.
Yes.
Carlos A. Vidal.
Yes.
Paul J. Brasco.
Yes.
14 in favor, none opposed.
By your action, you have approved that amount of money. Councilor LaCava moves the appropriation from sewer retained earnings at the recommendation of the mayor. The clerk will of $920,000. The clerk will call the roll.
George A. Darcy III.
Yes.
Karen Dunn.
Yes.
Sean T. Durkee.
Yes.
Kathy Ann Harris.
Yes.
Joseph P. LaCava.
Yes.
Anthony LaFosse.
Yes.
Randall J. LeBlanc.
Yes.
Christine A. Mackin.
Yes.
John J. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Patrick J. O'Brien.
Yes.
Jonathan Paz.
Yes.
Thomas M. Stanley.
Yes.
Carlos A. Vidal.
Yes.
Paul J. Brasco.
Yes.
14 in favor, none opposed.
By your action, you have approved that appropriation. Councilor LaCava makes a motion for the appropriation from water retained earnings at the recommendation of the mayor for $1,089,000. The clerk will call the roll.
George A. Darcy III.
Yes.
Karen Dunn.
Yes.
Sean T. Durkee.
Yes.
Kathy Ann Harris.
Yes.
Joseph P. LaCava.
Yes.
Anthony LaFosse.
Yes.
Randall J. LeBlanc.
Yes.
Christine A. Mackin.
Yes.
John J. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Patrick J. O'Brien.
Yes.
Jonathan Paz.
Yes.
Thomas M. Stanley.
Yes.
Carlos A. Vidal.
Yes.
Paul J. Brasco.
Yes. Yes.
14 in favor, none opposed.
By your action, you have moved approval of that amount of money. Am I correct here, Councilor Vidal? You are going to make a motion for the FY 2021 residential exemption percentage?
That's correct, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Vidal makes that motion for the residential exemption percentage as presented here this evening by our assessor, Attorney Frank Craig. The clerk will call the roll.
George A. Darcy III.
Yes.
Karen Dunn.
Yes.
Sean T. Durkee.
Yes.
Kathy Ann Harris.
Yes.
Joseph P. LaCava.
No.
Anthony LaFosse.
No.
Randall J. LeBlanc.
No.
Christine A. Mackin.
Yes.
John J. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Patrick J. O'Brien.
Yes.
Jonathan Paz.
Yes.
Thomas M. Stanley.
Yes.
Carlos A. Vidal.
Yes.
Paul J. Brasco.
Yes.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 in favor, 3 opposed.
By your action, you have approved that FY 2021 residential exemption, and Councilor Vidal makes a motion. This is the last motion in this package for FY 2021 to approve the residential factor. The clerk will call the roll.
George A. Darcy III.
Yes.
Karen Dunn.
Yes.
Sean T. Durkee.
Yes.
Kathy Ann Harris.
Yes.
Joseph P. LaCava.
Yes.
Anthony LaFosse.
Yes.
Randall J. LeBlanc.
Yes.
Christine A. Mackin.
Yes.
John J. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Patrick J. O'Brien.
Yes.
Jonathan Paz.
Yes.
Thomas M. Stanley.
Yes.
Carlos A. Vidal.
Yes.
Paul J. Brasco.
Yes.
14 in favor, none opposed.
By your action, you have approved the FY 2021 residential factor. There being no further business, is there any other business that we need to conduct? There being no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Who said that?
Counselor Paz.
Councilor Paz makes a motion that we adjourn the classification hearing for fiscal year 2021. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Now you are all invited to stay on for the full city council meeting and its agenda. Thank you very much.
The city council will come to order in 2 to 3 minutes. A 2 to 3 minute break for the clerks to establish documents necessary for the full city council. The clerks will let me know when they're ready to go.
I am ready, Mr. President. Mr.
Assistant Clerk Vazati, you ready?
I believe we are ready.
Okay. The Waltham City Council will remotely come together on Monday evening, November 23rd at 7:30 p.m. The meeting can be followed by the public on the City of Waltham YouTube channel. It can be followed on the Waltham Community Access Corporation MAC channel for Verizon subscribers. The meeting can be followed on channel 43 for Comcast subscribers. This meeting can be followed on channel 98. RCN subscribers can follow the meeting on channel 15. The following matters and others may be considered. The clerk will call the roll.
George A. Darcy III.
Present.
Karen Dunn.
Present.
Sean T. Durkee.
Present.
Kathy Ann Harris.
Present.
Joseph P. LaCava.
Present.
Anthony LaFosse.
Present.
Randall J. LeBlanc.
Present.
Christina A. Mackin. Christina A. Mackin. John J. McLaughlin.
Present.
Kathleen B. McMenamin.
Present.
Patrick J. O'Brien.
Present.
Jonathan Paz.
Present.
Thomas M. Stanley.
Present.
Carlos A. Vidal.
Present.
Christina A. Mackin. See her. No, she's not answering, Mr. President, but I see her listed on the meeting participants.
Clerk, she is on
President
the
Paul
meeting.
J. Brasco.
Present. I do see Councilor Mackin listed on our participants, but unfortunately it is muted at this time. So all rise while the city clerk recites the council prayer.
Almighty God, we ask thy guidance in all our deliberations.
Amen.
Amen.
Please remain standing while the city council president leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I ask you to remain standing. Councilor Randy LeBlanc, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I ask for a moment of silence for all of our troops, home and abroad, and especially for those who have given the ultimate sacrifice with their lives.
Moment of silence, please. Thank you. You may be seated. Again, this meeting is being transmitted live on the Waltham City YouTube channel, on Waltham Community Access Corporation MAC channel. Wish of the committee with regards to the approval of minutes of the meeting November 9th, 2020.
To approve.
I'm sorry, who moved approval?
Councilor LaFosse.
Councilor Fossey made a motion for approval. On the motion for approval, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Communications from the mayor.
The mayor respectfully requests acceptance of a donation by the Digital Federal Credit Union to the City of Waltham Police Department in the amount of $5,000.
For the Finance Committee.
The mayor respectfully requests acceptance of a donation by the Digital Federal Credit Union to the City of Waltham Fire Department in the amount of $5,000.
For the Finance Committee.
Christine A. Mackin.
Present. Apologies for that. Thank you.
Thank you. The mayor respectfully requests acceptance of a donation in the amount of $200 towards the upkeep and maintenance of the holiday lights on the common.
There's a Scribner's error, Mr. Clerk. It says $2,100. Is it $200?
It's $200, not $2,100.
$200. Refer to the Finance Committee.
The mayor respectfully requests a transfer of funds totaling $15,880 to conduct a topographical survey and develop an easement plan for the private portion of Clark Street.
Refer to the Finance Committee.
The mayor respectfully submits a request for funding from the Waltham Community Access Corporation to purchase more audio equipment to support social distancing at Government Center.
Refer to the Finance Committee.
The mayor respectfully requests acceptance of a MEMA FFY 2020 EMPG grant in the amount of $25,600 for the City of Waltham's Emergency Management Department.
Refer to the Finance Committee.
Mr. President.
I'm sorry. Councilor.
I make a motion to act on this matter without committee reference.
Councilor LaCava, Chairman of the Finance Committee, makes a motion to suspend the rules, act on this matter without committee reference. On the motion to suspend the rules, all in favor, say aye.
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 Oppose or object? The matter
Mr.
is before us.
President.
Councilor LaCava makes a motion for approval of the matter. On the motion for approval of the MEMA FFY 2020 EMPG grant in the amount of $25,600. On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose or object? There being none, matter is approved. Clerk,
Mr.
continue with
President,
number 7.
quickly, I would just like to acknowledge Bernie Mullen from our Emergency Management Department is here on the line, and I do thank him for his work in receiving this grant. Thank you, Mr. Mullen.
Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman LaCava. Clerk, continue with number 7.
The mayor respectfully requests the confirmation of the appointment of Dr. Davis Patel of 109 Raphael Drive, Waltham, as a member of the Ambulance Review Committee.
Refer to the Committee of the Whole.
Mayor respectfully requests a response in support or not in support of an interested party possibly pursuing to rent or buy the McLaughlin Building at 475 Trapelo Road for educational use.
Refer to the Fernal Reeves Committee.
Applications and licenses.
Refer to the License and Franchise Committee.
Orders, ordinances, and resolutions. We have several resolutions, Mr. President.
Clerk would read the first resolution.
Resolution concerning 2021 proposed MBTA service cuts affecting public transportation in Waltham. Whereas the MBTA announced its proposed 2021 service cuts on November 9, 2020, and whereas there are 8 MBTA bus lines servicing Waltham, 61, 70, 170, 505, 553, 554, 556, and 558, and whereas the MBTA is proposing to eliminate 2 bus lines entirely, 170 and 505, and whereas the MBTA is proposing to substantially shorten 4 bus lines, 553, 554, 556, and 558, and whereas the MBTA is proposing to reduce frequency by 20% on non-essential lines 61 and 70, and whereas these proposed service cuts reduce our bus service by approximately 50%, and whereas Waltham is disproportionately affected by these proposed service cuts despite our annual 1.5 million MBTA local assessment, and whereas a majority of the Waltham residents that use public transportation are lower-income workers, of whom many are essential workers, and whereas comments to the proposed cuts must be received by Friday, December 4, 2020 at 5 p.m. Now therefore, be it resolved that the City Council submit written opposition to the 2021 proposed MBTA service cuts affecting Waltham commuters. Respectfully submitted, George A. Darcy III, Councilor Ward 3, Patrick J. O'Brien, Councilor at Large, Christine A. Mackin, Councilor Ward 7.
Councilor Darcy, you have the floor.
Thank you. As stated in the resolution, we have 8 MBTA bus lines and a commuter rail in Waltham. There's virtually no service in parts of North Waltham, yet the MBTA proposes to eliminate 2 bus lines, 2 of the 8, propose to shorten 4 of the 8, and propose to drastically cut weekend, nighttime, and midday service to the 61 and 70 and the commuter rail. All in all, for Waltham, this equates to a 50% reduction in services, much higher than other nearby communities. What happens to our $1.5 million local assessment? Will we get $750,000 back? It would be wonderful if this City Council could support a letter to the MBTA as part of the Forging Ahead comment period. All comments are due by December 4th, and this council does not meet before that date. So my letter would read as follows. Dear Forging Ahead, the Waltham City Council vehemently objects to the proposed MBTA service cuts that will negatively affect public transportation in Waltham. The proposed elimination of the 170 and 505 bus, the reduction in half of the 553, 4, 6, and 8 buses, and the cuts to the weekend, nighttime, and midday service of the 61 and 70 bus in the Fitchburg commuter rail amount to 50% of the services in Waltham. The City Council recently passed several large transit-oriented developments, the Edison at Cooper Street, Main and Merck, Currents on the Charles. These residents all rely on the MBTA. The state should be lobbying for federal aid, and if that does not come through, then the state needs to figure out how to come up with appropriate funding for our essential public transportation. And this is a social equity issue too. Public transportation allows many of our lower income workers who do not have enough money for a car or insurance to go to and from their jobs, many of them being our essential workers. So MBTA, please forge ahead, but keep our existing public transportation services in place. Sincerely, the Waltham City Council. And just for your note, other councils, Boston, Cambridge, Reading, Cohasset, Hingham, Hull, Situate, have all passed similar letters to the MBTA. And I would request that our clerks forward a copy of this letter by the end of this week to Governor Baker, Mayor McCarthy, Representative Stanley and Lawn, Senator Barrett, Congresswoman Clark, and Senators Markey and Warren. And if there are no further speakers, I would make a motion to act on this matter without committee reference.
Councilor Darcy, I have one speaker, Councilor Mackin from Ward 7. Councilor Mackin, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. When I saw this resolution arrive in the packet, I reached out to the Ward 3 councilor and asked to co-sponsor it because I wanted to share a little bit of my experience with public transit in Waltham. When I moved to Waltham to become a graduate student at Brandeis University, I did not have a car, and I relied on a combination of public transit, the Brandeis shuttle services, and my feet to get me where I needed to go. When I finished my degree at Brandeis, I was able to get an internship in Boston, and I took the commuter rail in and out of the city. And that opportunity helped me secure the job I have now, which I drive to in a car that I was able to buy with the money that I started making at that job. So public transit is not just getting people from place to place, it's giving people access to opportunities. And it's a really vital component of Waltham, and it's an important connection between us and our neighboring communities. So I want to thank the Ward 3 councillor for bringing this in and fully support his effort to communicate to the state the importance of public transit to our Waltham community. And I hope the rest of the city council will join us in supporting that letter. Thank you.
Councilor Vice President McMenamin is next on my list.
Thank you. Point of order, Mr. President. Would the councilor who has composed this letter please make sure that the Waltham members of the Waltham City Council receive a copy as well, since we don't have that. Thank you.
Madam Vice President, correct. Actually, Councilor Darcy makes a motion to suspend the rules to act on this matter without committee reference. On the motion to suspend the rules, all in favor, say aye.
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 Oppose or object?
Move for approval.
The matter is currently before us. Councilor Darcy, I have Councilor O'Brien next on my list. Councilor O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to echo some of the previous comments. I think, we had the tax meeting earlier, and as companies consider Waltham for their businesses, having a vibrant MBTA service is a critical part of the decision when they decide to potentially move here to open a business or move their existing business. So we have to do everything we can to preserve the T service that we currently have and not lose it. So I'm proud to support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Brien. No further speakers. Councilor Darcy, we do not have that letter in writing, as the Vice President had mentioned. You need to provide that letter in writing to the clerk so that we can have a copy of it as well. On the motion for approval by Councilor Darcy, all in favor say aye.
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 Object?
Aye.
There being no objections, the resolution is approved. The clerk will continue with the next resolution.
Resolution concerning security at the Fernald. Whereas during the past year, there's been a great deal of destruction of buildings at the Fernald by vandals and intruders, and whereas hundreds of windows and doors have been broken, exposing the buildings to the elements, and whereas interior elements have been damaged and some thrown outside, and whereas there have been 2 fires, one at the North Building and another at Cardinal Cottage, and whereas the only people now roaming the Fernald campus are vandals and thieves. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Waltham hire a professional on-site security service to protect the Fernald 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and be it further resolved that the City of Waltham allow neighbors in wards 3 and 4 to walk the site. Respectfully submitted, George A. Darcy III, Councilor, Ward 3.
Point of order, Mr. President. Point of order, Mr. President.
Madam Vice President.
I raise my hand to remove myself from participation, since the State Ethics Commission has made it very clear to me and all the members of the City Council that by my proximity to the land, I am unable to participate in any discussion at all to do with the Fernald. Thank you.
Let the record reflect that Vice President McMenamin has to recuse herself with regards to all the resolutions currently before us with regards to the Fernald use, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 matters coming before us. Clerk, Councilor Darcy, you have the floor.
Thank you. If any of you have visited the Fernald recently, you will see that the rate of destruction in the buildings has increased dramatically this year over the past 6 months, and probably not unrelated to COVID. And I really believe that we need a full-time security service to drive through the entire site 24/7 to ward off the vandals. We have had 2 fires, one just last month at the Cardinal Cottage. And having neighbors walk the site would be also good, because they could contact the police department with their smartphones if they saw or heard any activities in the buildings. And I'm also concerned that trespassers will get hurt while entering the buildings. Right now, as the resolution states, the only people walking at the Fernald are those intending on stealing things and wrecking things. So I think this will be forwarded to the Fernald Use Committee, Mr. Chairman.
It will be, certainly, Council, but I wouldn't encourage private citizens to also trespass and take notice. You just contradicted yourself.
No, what I'm saying right now, no one is allowed on the site.
Okay.
But I'm proposing that we have a 24/7 security service, and that we also allow neighbors to walk the site.
Okay, that being said, this matter will be referred to the Fernald Reuse Committee.
Use Committee.
Fernald Use Committee. Reuse. Use Committee.
Use.
Councilor Clerk will continue with the next resolution regarding this.
Resolution concerning housing at the Fernald. Whereas Waltham needs more affordable housing for its seniors, veterans, lower-income workers, and individuals with disabilities, and whereas there are 2 buildings at the Fernald site, Marquardt, Tom, and Tarbell, that are good candidates to provide needed housing, either temporary or permanent, and whereas Marquardt, Tom, is a 4-story brick building built in 1952, formerly a skilled nursing facility operating until 2014, containing 32,116 square feet, providing 29 rooms, and is ADA accessible. And whereas Tarbell is a 4-story brick building built in 1934, formerly residential, containing 38,924 square feet, providing 40 units, and is ADA accessible. And whereas these 2 buildings at Fernald are structurally sound and could provide the city with more affordable housing, now therefore be it resolved that the city rehabilitate the interiors of both Marquardt and Tarbell via CPA funds or other funding sources to provide housing for our seniors, veterans, lower income workers, and people with disabilities. Respectfully submitted, George A. Darcy, Councilor Ward 3.
Councilor Darcy, you have the floor.
Thank you. So the Marquardt building and the Tarbell building are 2 good candidates for housing. Not speaking about the interior or the utilities, they appear to be structurally sound. And at the next Fernald Use Committee meeting, I will request the superintendent.
Oh, you're going to read the next one. Okay.
Just mute it.
I'm sorry.
Continue on, Councilor Darcy.
At the next Fernald Use Committee meeting, I intend to request that the Superintendent of Public Buildings, Forte, Wires Director Kelly, and Housing Director Waters provide the City Council with a report on the condition of the Marquardt and Tarbell buildings, including the status of structural integrity, roofing, windows, doors, flooring, heat, electrical, elevator/ADA, contamination, and housing assessment. Thank you.
Thank you. Further matter of the Fernald Use Committee. Clerk, continue with the next resolution with regards to the Fernald.
Okay, Mr. President, this is a resolution concerning the equestrian center at the Fernald. Whereas there are no equestrian facilities in Waltham, and whereas there is sufficient space at the Fernald for a horse stable, a covered riding area, covered riding arena, and miles of natural horse trails. And whereas hippotherapy or physical therapy on horseback is a recognized therapy and has proven success with children and adults with emotional and developmental disabilities. And whereas equine therapy has demonstrated success in helping children with Rett syndrome and cerebral palsy to walk. And whereas the use of horses for therapy likely started as early as the times of the ancient Greeks, as horses were not merely used for riding, but were also served as a means for physical and mental well-being. And whereas a former barn existed in the southwest corner of the Fernald, housing horses and cows. It was constructed in 1887 with the assistance from the Fernald students. And whereas an equine therapy program would be an appropriate and historic reuse of the Fernald site, now therefore be it resolved that the City Council lease an area in the southwest corner of the Fernald site for a horse stable, riding ring, to provide riding, training, and equine therapy for the residents of Waltham, students, veterans, and individuals with special needs. Respectfully submitted, George A. Darcy, Councilor Ward 3.
Councilor Darcy, you have the floor.
Thank you. This idea was suggested to me by a neighbor. And after researching it, I realized that it would be a great match for the Fernald. Hippotherapy, or equine assisted therapy, encompasses a range of therapeutic and rehabilitative treatments that involves activities with horses to help children that are facing physical, cognitive, or emotional challenges. In the southwestern corner of the Fernald is where the historic Bird family barn was located, where both horses and cows were. In fact, the barn was enlarged when the Fernald acquired the site in 1887, and it was the students of the Fernald that helped construct the foundation. In this non-CPA section, there is sufficient land for a horse stable, a covered ring, and there are, as you know, are miles of horse trails that could wind their way throughout the Fernald site. A regular and special needs horseback riding program would be an appropriate reuse of the historic Fernald site, and it is in line with its conservation/recreation zoning. An added benefit is that this area abuts the Girl Scouts of Eastern Massachusetts, Gann Academy, and Bentley University, and these organizations could also make use of this facility, as well as the residents of Waltham. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Darcy. Further matter to the Fernald use. Clerk will continue with the next resolution with regard to the Fernald.
Resolution concerning access to Fernald for Forest Street residents. Whereas Forest Street residents located in wards 1, 3, and 4 do not currently have immediate and easy access to the city's 196-acre Fernald site, and whereas the city of Waltham owns a beautiful 15-acre parcel on Forest Street acquired in 1923 called Forest Street Park, located between Gann Academy and the Girl Scouts of Eastern Massachusetts on the eastern side of Forest Street, and whereas this beautiful open space parcel is in its natural state, containing several streams and wetlands in an old growth oak and hickory forest. Now therefore be it resolved that the city establish a natural walking path through the Forest Street Park parcel to provide a connection for Forest Street residents to access the Fernald property. Respectfully submitted, George A. Darcy III, Councilor Ward 3.
Councilor Darcy.
What ward is that?
Thank you. So the Forest Park parcel is Ward 4. It's located between the Gann Academy and the Girl Scout site. On the other side of Forest Street, you have both wards 1, 3, and 4. So this would provide a means for people on Forest Street to actually easy access the Fernald parcel. That's all I have to say on this matter.
Okay, matter is referred to the Fernald Use Committee. Clerk, continue with the next Fernald resolution.
Resolution concerning a pollinator pavilion at Fernald, whereas pollinators such as bees, butterflies, bats, and birds help to pollinate fruits, vegetables, and wildflowers. And whereas the declines in the health and population of pollinators pose what could be a significant threat to the integrity of biodiversity, to global food webs, and to human health, and whereas at least 80% of our world's crop species require pollination to set seed, and whereas an estimated 1 out of every 3 bites of food comes to us through the work of animal pollinators, and whereas there are several buildings at the Fernald that could be repurposed for a pollinator pavilion educating children and adults about the necessity and importance of our pollinators. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council explore leasing one of the Fernald buildings, such as one of the food service buildings, for an educational pollinator pavilion. Respectfully submitted, George A. Darcy III, Councilor Ward 3.
Councilor Darcy, you have the floor.
Thank you. In 1989, the City Council was approached by a gentleman named George Leslie Jr. And George had a butterfly garden in his backyard at 26 Bedford Street. He tried to convince the City Council to support the idea of a butterfly pavilion to be located on some land in the city. And with the exception of one city councilor who's on this call this evening, and she knows who she is, George's idea was quickly dismissed in the chamber. Later, George went on to purchase land in Westford, Massachusetts. He sold his data storage company and put the proceeds into his butterfly place, an indoor garden with hundreds of butterflies, caterpillars from all around the world, now a successful site educating children and adults on these beautiful creatures. He was inspired by the butterfly houses during his trips to Britain. A butterfly house or conservatory is a facility which is specifically intended for the breeding and the display of butterflies, with an emphasis on education. George's butterfly place in Westford was the 4th conservatory in the United States. And we have a great opportunity here at Fernald to locate such a facility at one of our large open buildings, such as one of the 2 food services buildings. The site would be educational for both children and adults. It could be ADA accessible, teaching them about all of the different pollinators that we depend upon for our food, including bees, butterflies, insects, bats, and birds. This again is a community-based educational reuse that is in line with the history of the Fernald site. Thank you.
Refer to the Fernald Use Committee. Clerk, continue with the next Fernald resolution.
Resolution concerning viticulture and solar power at Fernald. Whereas the non-CPA portion of the Fernald site is a south-facing exposure with a 140-foot drop from the Wallace Building to Waverly Oaks Road, and whereas due to its steep slope and southern exposure, this portion of the Fernald has an equivalent microclimate of a mid or southern state, and whereas due to its orientation and topography, this area of the Fernald would be well suited a combined grape vineyard and a solar farm, and whereas the grid could generate renewable energy to power not only activities at Fernald, but also power hundreds of homes in Waltham. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council explore leasing the southern portion of the Fernald site for a combined vineyard and solar farm. Respectfully submitted, George A. Darcy III, Councilor Ward 3.
Councilor Darcy, you have the floor.
Thank you. Agrivoltaics, otherwise known as solar sharing, is a concept that is spreading around the world. It involves creating solar panel farms with food crops grown in between, and in some case with livestock. It is big in France and is big on the West Coast. The first benefit that might come to mind is the opportunity to generate multiple streams of revenue from the same location, in this case, food and power. But the studies suggest that a mutual beneficial relationship between the plants and the panels in terms of temperature, moisture, and the reduction of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And the idea here is that due to Fernald's south-facing exposure, its steep 148 elevation drop from Owl Hill down to Waverly Oaks Road in just 800 feet. It would be a superb and prime location for both a solar panel array as well as growing vegetables or fruits such as grapes. The solar panels could certainly power all of the needs at Fernald, but could also export energy and power hundreds of nearby homes. The Bose Company in Framingham along the Turnpike has 4,000 panels on 35 acres that are generating 1.7 megawatts of energy each year. For comparison to Waltham, 1.7 megawatts could power 1,500 homes in Waltham. So I look forward to discussing this in committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. For the matter of the Fernald Use Committee. Clerk, continue with the next resolution.
Whereas the Waltham City Council received a communication from the mayor dated October 22nd, 2020 regarding the bond sale pertaining to the financing of the new Waltham High School. Now therefore be it resolved that the Waltham City Council invite the city auditor in order to discuss this matter. Respectfully submitted, Kathleen B. McMiniman, City Council Vice President, Joseph P. LaCava, Chair of the Finance Committee, Councilor Ward 5, Paul J. Brasco, City Council President.
Vice President McMiniman.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong resolution here. Thanks very much, Mr. President. This is basically very self-explanatory. When the auditor and his team come into the Finance Committee to talk to us, I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions regarding the bond sale, et cetera, and its application to the new Waltham High School and the cost of same. However, while I'm speaking and I have the floor, I wish to say that, and it's the last matter on our docket, but will only be presented to us for information, that November 18th, 2020, to the City Council, a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting once again was given to the City of Waltham based on the year ending June 30th, 2019. In addition to the City Council's Finance Committee efforts, this is the mayor, I would like to thank City Auditor Paul Centofanti, who is the primary point person for this matter, as well as the Auditor's Office, the School Business Manager, the City Treasurer, and all city departments who provided the outside auditors with the information. And basically, Auditor Centofanti sent this communication to the mayor, and he congratulated her. Attached is a copy of the Certificate of Achievement presented to the City of Waltham for its comprehensive financial annual report by the government finance offices and for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019. This is the 16th consecutive year the city has received this recognition. And all under your leadership, that's the mayor, and through the direction you provide to the financial administration and the finance committee of the Waltham City Council. So congratulations to all of us, to the auditor, to the mayor, and I would ask, if you would not mind, you can decide where you wish to send this. I really think, though, where it's going to deal with the high school, it really should come to the committee of the whole. But I'll leave that up to you, Mr. President.
Refer the matter to the committee of the whole.
Thank you very much.
Clerk, continue with the late file resolution.
We have two more resolutions, Mr. President. First, the resolution regarding Garden Crest. Whereas the people of Garden Crest Apartments, which is located in Ward 6, are currently experiencing public safety and public works problems, be it resolved that the Waltham City Council investigate these problems with the goal of positive resolution. Respectfully submitted, Sean T. Durkee, Councilor Ward 6, Kathleen B. McMiniman, Council Vice President, Randall J. LeBlanc, Councilor at Large, Carlos A. Vidal, Councilor at Large, Patrick J. O'Brien, Councilor at Large. And there are three requests accompanying this resolution, Mr. President.
If the Councilor Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to highlight the seriousness of this issue. While we were meeting, there may have been another attack in the Garden Crest area this evening. So the purpose of this is because there's been a recent surge in public safety issues, specifically physical attacks on residents. There have been 5, possibly 6 now since November 10th. I've spoken with the police department and the Harbor Group Management who manages Garden Crest. They've been very cooperative, and the police department is obviously aware of the issue, and they're taking actions and steps that they will keep to themselves for now to enhance public safety there. I've submitted the 3 requests to speak with the police chief, the building inspector, and the public health director for this very serious public safety issue and for some additional issues. But I just wanted to let people know why this late filing is so important, in that, going back to November 10th, these issues have arisen, but the Waltham Police Department made a request on Friday night, and after receiving multiple calls, I'm sure many people have over the weekend, this is a serious issue that we need to discuss and make public and highlight as soon as possible. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Durkee. On the requests,
There are 3 separate requests, Mr. President.
if the clerk would read the requests.
Request number 1, that the chief of the Waltham Police Department or his designee appear at the next Public Works and Public Safety Committee in order to discuss problems at Garden Crest. Respectfully submitted, Sean T. Durkee, Councilor Ward 6.
On the request, you've all heard the sense of the request. On the request, all in favor say aye.
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 Oppose or object? The request is approved.
Second request, Mr. President, the Director of Public Health or her designee appear at the next Public Works and Public Safety Committee meeting in order to discuss problems at Garden Crest. Respectfully submitted, Sean T. Durkee, Councilor Ward 6.
You've all heard the sense of the request. On the request, all in favor
On
say
the
aye.
request.
On the request, Councilor Blank.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm happy to see Councilor from Ward 6 initiating this resolution. And as you know, I go running up what's soon to be the rail trail. You see multiple dumpsters overflowing. They seem to have overcrowding in there. So I would be much in favor of seeing the Director of Public Health or designee come in to help us try to work with Garden Crest to address these issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Blank. Further speakers? There being none, on the request, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed or object? There being none, the request is approved. Clerk, continue with the next request.
Request number 3, that the Inspector of Buildings, Superintendent of Public Buildings, or his designee appear at the next Public Works and Public Safety Committee meeting in order to discuss problems at Garden Crest. Respectfully submitted, Sean T. Durkee, Councilor Ward 6.
You've all heard a sense of the request. On the request, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose or object? There being none, the request is approved. The matters will be referred to the Public Works, Public Safety Committee.
And the final resolution, Mr. President. Whereas the Salvation Army has served the Waltham community for 125 years, and whereas annually the Salvation Army in Waltham serves over 22,000 meals to the displaced persons and those in need, provides approximately 8,000 bags of groceries to low-income individuals and families, provides coats and backpacks for dozens of children in the city of Waltham, and approximately 6,400 hours of tutoring to children in need. And whereas the Salvation Army's annual Red Kettle campaign provides much of the funding that allows these services to be provided to our community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Waltham City Council continues its long-standing support for the Salvation Army Waltham by participating in its annual Red Kettle campaign and raising awareness regarding the importance of this effort and the many contributions of the Salvation Army to the Waltham community. Respectfully submitted, Paul J. Brasco, City Council President and Councilor at Large. Kathy Ann Harris, City Councilor, Ward 8.
Councilor Harris, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll keep my comments brief. I know there's a lot going on in the city, but I think at this time of year, it's also very important that we support our nonprofits that actually support the fabric and the network of our community. The Salvation Army isn't often in the news, but it does deliver multiple facets of support to many people in our community, especially those on the south side. And specifically, this is in Ward 8, and this has been the Red Kettle campaign since I've been elected, has been something that I've carried on, the tradition of a bell ringing day. It was kind of touch and go whether or not we would be able to do this during COVID. And it is with my support that tonight I bring this forward. We did get approval to be able to do this. We will be able to have a city council, and anybody who's formally elected or anybody serving in public office can come, or even at the department level can come and ring the bell for this very important charity. I think it's really important that our community come together and support each other and show support for the Salvation Army this year and every year. But with everything going on, they really need our help and need our support. With that, Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules to act on this matter without committee reference.
Councilor Harris moves to suspend the rules to act on this matter without committee reference. All in favor, say aye.
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 Oppose or object? There being none, the matter is
Motion to-
before us. Councilor Harris?
Motion to approve, but on the approval, I just want to let everybody know that I'm working out a date with the newly appointed director of the Salvation Army, and I'm going to try and give everybody a 2-week lead time. So you'll be getting an email from me no later than Friday, and then I'll be calling every counselor to ask if there's a time that works for you where you can come and ring the bell for an hour or a half hour. So I'll have the date by Friday. Motion to approve.
On the motion by Councilor Harris for approval. On the motion for approval, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose or
Aye.
object?
Aye.
There being none, the motion and the matter and the resolution is approved. Clerk, continue.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Harris. With committee reports.
Committee reports, licenses and franchises. The Licenses and Franchises Committee recommends the Class 2 renewal for JJJ Auto Retailers, Inc. at 196 High Street be approved.
Councilor Vidal moves the action committee to be the action of council. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose or object? Matter is approved. Clerk, continue on number 2.
The Licenses and Franchises Committee recommends the Class 1 renewal for Aston Martin of New England Lotus Motorsports, Inc. at 85 Linden Street be approved.
Councilor Vidal moves the action committee to be the action of the council. All in favor, say aye.
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 Oppose or object? There being none, the matter is approved. Clerk, continue. Councilor Vidal moves the actions on line items 3 through 9 be acted on collectively. On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose or object? There being none. Councilor Vidal moves the action of the committee be the action of the council for a Class 2 renewal license of Waltham Auto, Waltham Motor Company, Pilgrim Auto, Hull Corporation, Inc., Prospect Automotive, European Automotive Solutions, Absolute Auto Sales. On the motion for approval, but Councilor Vidal moves the action committee be the action of the council. All in favor, say aye.
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 Oppose or object? There being none. Clerk, continue with number 10.
Licenses and Franchises Committee recommends the resolution concerning licensing fees be approved.
Let the record reflect that Councilor Carver recuses himself with regards to this matter. Councilor Vidal moves the action of the committee be the action of the council. All in favor, say aye.
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 Oppose or object? Oppose or object? There being none, matter is approved. Clerk, continue with.
President, Mr.
I'm
President,
sorry?
could a copy of the resolution please be forwarded to the license board?
Councilor Darcy makes a request that the vote of the city council be forwarded to the licensing commission of the city of Waltham. On the request, all in favor, say aye.
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 Oppose or object? There being none, the matter will be forwarded to the license commission of the city of Waltham. Clerk, continue.
Economic and Community Development. The Economic and Community Development Committee recommends the mental health resolution be approved.
Councilor Harris moves that the action of the committee be the action of the council. All in favor, say aye.
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 Oppose or object? There being none, matter is approved. Clerk, continue with committee of the whole.
Committee of the Whole recommends the line item related to the property located at 102 Tremont Avenue that was auctioned off be filed.
Vice President McMahon moves the action of the committee be the action of the council. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose or object? There being none, the matter is filed. Clerk, continue.
Committee of the Whole recommends the acceptance of the school committee's decision to surplus the Fitch School.
Vice President McMahon moves the action committee to be the action of the council. Roll call is required.
George A. Darcy III,
Yes.
Karen Dunn,
Yes.
Sean T. Durkee,
Yes.
Kathy Ann Harris,
Yes.
Joseph P. LaCava,
Yes.
Anthony LaFosse,
Yes.
Randall J. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Christine A. Mackin,
Yes.
John J. McLaughlin,
Yes.
Kathleen B. McMenamin,
Yes.
Patrick J. O'Brien,
Yes.
Jonathan Paz,
Yes.
Thomas M. Stanley,
Yes.
Carlos A. Vidal,
Yes.
By your action, you have approved the school committee's decision to surplus the Fitch School. Clerk, continue with the ordinance and rules.
The Ordinances and Rules Committee recommends the amended compensation ordinances for non-union employees be approved for a first reading.
Council McLaughlin moves the action committee to be the action of the council. All in favor, say aye.
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 Oppose or object? There being none, Council McLaughlin, would you like this to be tabled on the council floor or recommit?
Tabled on the council floor, please.
Motion is tabled, non-debatable. Councilor McLaughlin makes a motion to table. All in favor, say aye.
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 Oppose or object? There being none, clerk, continue with the ordinance and rules number 2.
The Ordinances and Rules Committee recommends the time extension for New Creek LLC and CBRE at 49-53 Linden Street be approved.
Council McLaughlin moves the action committee to be the action of the council. Roll call is required.
George A. Darcy III,
Yes.
Karen Dunn,
Yes.
Sean T. Durkee,
Yes.
Kathy Ann Harris,
Yes.
Joseph P. LaCava,
Yes.
Anthony LaFosse,
Yes.
Randall J. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Christine A. Mackin,
Yes.
John J. McLaughlin,
Yes.
Kathleen B. McMenamin,
Yes.
Patrick J. O'Brien,
Yes.
Jonathan Paz,
Yes.
Thomas M. Stanley,
Yes.
Carlos A. Vidal,
Yes.
14 in favor, none opposed.
By your action, you have approved the extension of time. Clerk, continue with number 3.
Ordinances and Rules Committee recommends the time extension for Grossman Companies, Inc. at 1111 Lexington Street be approved.
Council McLaughlin moves the action committee to be the action of the council. Roll call is required.
George A. Darcy III,
Yes.
George A. Darcy III,
Yes.
Karen Dunn,
Yes.
Sean T. Durkee,
Yes.
Kathy Ann Harris,
Yes.
Joseph P. LaCava,
Yes.
Anthony LaFosse,
Yes.
Randall J. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Christine A. Mackin,
Yes.
John J. McLaughlin,
Yes.
Kathleen B. McMenamin,
Yes.
Patrick J. O'Brien,
Yes.
Jonathan Paz,
Yes.
Thomas M. Stanley,
Yes.
Carlos A. Vidal,
Yes.
14 in favor, none opposed.
By your action, you have approved the extension of time. Clerk, continue with finance.
The Finance Committee recommends the transfer of funds totaling $1,360,000 to fund the first 2 years of the collective bargaining agreement between the city and the firefighters union for the period July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2022 be approved.
Councilor Calvin moves the action of the committee to be the action of the council. All in favor, say aye.
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 Oppose or object? There being none, the matter is approved. Clerk,
Finance
continue.
Committee recommends the transfer of funds totaling $343,850 to fund the first 2 years of the 3-year collective bargaining agreement between the city and the Teamsters Union laborers for the period July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2022 be approved.
Councilor Calvin moves the action committee to be the action of the council. All in favor, say aye.
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 Oppose or object?
Aye.
Oppose or object? There being none, the matter is approved. Clerk, continue with number 3.
Finance Committee recommends the transfer of funds totaling $724,900 to fund the compensation increase for the non-union employees for the period July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, and July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021 be approved.
Councilor Calvin moves the action committee to be the action of the council. All in favor, say aye.
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 Oppose or object? Oppose or object? There being none, matter is approved. Clerk, continue.
The Fernald Use Committee recommends that the use of a portion of the non-CPA parcel of the former Fernald School for the CPW department be approved.
Councilor McLaughlin moves the action of the committee be the action of the council. On the motion, Councilor McLaughlin. You rise.
Thank you, thank you,
The
Mr.
floor, I'm
President.
sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President. The matter before us was approved by the Fernald Use Committee by a vote of 4-1. The matter is from a communication from the mayor regarding the possibility of relocating the Consolidated Public Works Division. Specifically, it seeks approval for a feasibility study of an area located in the southern non-CPA section of the former Fernald property. The mayor testified before the committee on this matter over 2 consecutive Fernald Use Committee meetings. Typically, I would be conveying to you that the committee's approval of this matter and ask for the full approval of the council. While I have no doubt my colleagues on the council are well informed on this matter and are prepared to vote in support of a feasibility study, I have grave concern that many residents have received information that at best is misleading. There is no such thing as a city dump in Waltham. There is no such thing as a city transfer station in Waltham. With the exception of an emergency, the Public Works Division is a 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. operation, not 24 hours. If you visit the city yard, which is located behind the Lexington Street Fire Station and Police Station, there are no smells associated with the work being done there. Most importantly, nothing in this request is being fast-tracked. This vote will be an approval for a feasibility study and only that. So all that being said, it is very, very clear to me that residents have been shamelessly misled. In the interest of full transparency and in an effort to allow the truth to be brought forward, I move to recommit this matter to the next meeting of the Committee of the Whole. In addition, I will add a request that the mayor and her designees be invited into that meeting to counter the misinformation residents have received. Mr. President, thank you, and I welcome any additional comments on this.
Councilor
Mr.
McLaughlin's
President, on the
motion.
request,
Councilor McLaughlin's motion is to recommit. On the recommittal, I have a list,
Mr.
but let the
President.
record reflect, Councilor McMenamin, you,
I'd
Vice
like
President McMenamin.
to say out loud, I need to recuse myself because of a ruling given in 2014 to me more than once by the State Ethics Commission that because I am an abutter within 300 feet, I cannot, must not, should not participate in any discussion regarding the Fernald property. And believe me, it is not easy to do that, particularly tonight, but I must recuse myself.
Let the record reflect that Councilor McMenamin has to recuse herself with regards to any and all matters dealing with the Fernald use. All right, on my list first, for the motion to recommit. On the motion to recommit, Councilor O'Brien, you're first.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I just want to say to all the people who have reached out to me mostly by email, there's been some phone calls, but on Thursday night, I opened my packet and I did not see the communication that went out to the neighborhood. So I don't know if I could ask this for the clerk. The flyer that went out in the neighborhood, was that in our packets and I just missed it, or was it not distributed?
Mr. Clerk or Mr. Assistant City Clerk, there was a communication that was sent out to butters and city. Was there any official communication given by any of the elected officials on this body.
And so I didn't receive one, and I think I saw a picture of one on the Nextdoor website, but I did not receive one.
So it was not official communication of this body.
So just so people know, just personally, something in my family occurred on Friday, and the person had to go to 2 hospitals. So we had a very stressful weekend. But I did receive a call from a colleague today, letting me know what they were hearing. So, you know, there seemed to be a lot of anxiety and misinformation from the constituents that I got emails from, in terms of something passing tonight without any like due diligence or any neighborhood input or meeting. And that's the last thing that anybody that on this council would do. And the mayor can obviously speak for herself, but I would never see her doing that. I've been here 15 years, and if anything, we have many, many meetings regarding various topics in various neighborhoods over the years, and we vet things out completely. So, you know, in my opinion, you can rest easy, residents, knowing that we would never, ever ram something through in one night. The site itself has had numerous resolutions over the last 6 or 7 years, too many to even count. And they come in tonight alone, I think we had 5 or 6 that seem to come in and go to committee, and then I don't know, whatever happens to them, whether they get filed or they just go away, I don't know. But I think bringing in multiple resolutions creates confusion for particularly the neighbors. Obviously, neighbors are concerned about the value of their homes, their neighborhood, the investment of their homes, traffic, everything else. So I think that we need to kind of take a breath, slow down a little, and have a joint communication, have the mayor come in a couple of weeks and have a discussion. So please know, residents, and I know you know this, that we would never, ever try to ram something through in one night. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Brien. First time on my list, next speaker, Councilor Vidal.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Chair McLaughlin, for resubmitting this to Committee of the Whole. I want to share the same thoughts, some of the same thoughts that Councilor O'Brien stated regarding communication from a lot of the neighbors, abutters, and from different areas of the city regarding the city, the Fernald property. And it really surprises me, and it makes me angry to know that someone would actually go out there and present documents that are incorrect, present a letter, creating a level of anxiety I haven't seen here. And with the amount of emails and phone calls that I received, a lot of that information in that letter was incorrect. And I actually spoke with a gentleman who lived in Warrendale who called me today, and he was concerned because he was hearing in the letter stated that the Fernald, which was purchased with CPA money and some of the city money, wasn't going to be used as a transfer station or city dump. That was never the case. I'm looking at a packet here of documents about the Fernald. In 3 years to the date, I'm going to put this in my camera right now. You can see it right here. November 22nd, 2017, letter from the mayor. This is 3 years to the date. The mayor came in front of us and gave us this map right here. This is not new. We've been talking about this for a while. But nothing happened. We do have a lot of, as Councilor O'Brien stated, we have a lot of resolutions here. A lot of little resolutions about the Fernald, but we don't have much action going on there. A concern to me is the misinformation, because residents, rest assured that we as elected officials are here to see what's best for our community, for your neighborhood, and so on. And we will never going to do something like that to a piece of land that we fought so much to purchase. CPA money allows us to do 3 things on that property. And what the mayor's gonna do is not even gonna include any of the CPA money. We cannot do anything that the mayor wants to do in CPA land. It just cannot be done. So I wanna make sure that for a lot of neighbors and friends and people who live up in the north side of Waltham who are concerned, we're doing our homework. I'm doing our homework. I read. And I can tell you, you can call me anytime. I can tell you the facts. Because if a letter is going around your neighborhood stating erroneous information, we're not going to get far. And the last thing I want to do is for you to be upset at us or all of us for doing something incorrectly, because we are not doing anything incorrectly. We're actually doing what we were elected to do what's better for our community. But I want to make sure that next time when the mayor comes in front of us and she goes over what she wants to do with the property or what she wants to do with CPW going up there, I want to make sure you hear from her. She's been talking about this since 2017 about this. This is not new. We are going to go hear from the mayor again about this. This is not new. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Vidal. First time on my list is Councilor LaFosse.
Mr. President, thank you. Through you, being the Ward 1 counselor, residents of Ward 1 were also flyer dropped regarding the Fernald. So first and foremost, I want to take a moment basically to apologize to the residents of Waltham, where for the past 4 days, they've been living with this misinformation that was spread by a member of this council. You know, I've reached out to dozens of people who have shown anxiety that a city dump was going there, that their property values were going to decrease, that their kids were going to not be able to play anymore. And I want to just make sure and echo the sentiments of the other counselors that that is not the case, not one bit, that we're not looking to fast track anything, that we're looking for the best interest of the residents. As we all know, there's 194 acres up at the Fernald. 50 of it is non-CPA. Over 100 of it is CPA protected. For that neighborhood that is up on Trapello Road that looks out their window and sees green grass and rolling hills, we can tell you as a council that is never going to be touched, and that is why we bought it, because we were saving it from the hands of developers that were looking to put large developments and high rises there, and that wasn't Waltham. Some of the other misinformation that we have is traffic. Cherry Lane that dumps onto Trapello Road will never be used for any of this non-CPA property, ever. That was part of the commitment that the mayor made to the city and why that piece of property is protected. So my message to the Ward 1 councilors, to the Ward 1 residents, to the city residents is we are looking out for your best interest. We will not fast track anything. We are going to have public input meetings and listen to what people have to say. And that is it. I just, once again, I apologize, but we will be doing what is right for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor LaFosse. First time around, Councilor Randy LeBlanc.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I want to thank the chairman of the Fernald Use Committee for eloquently stating basically what we were discussing. And the mayor came in and asked for a study to be done, and 4 of the 5 members of the Fernald Use Committee voted on that. And I want to repeat what it was. It was just for a study. And I'd also like to supply the clerk with some additional information to be distributed to the full city council. And I also want that to be available to the public for the records. And it was, number 1, November 22nd of 2017 was the Fernald Master Plan. And then also a resolution back from 2016 addressing looking into this. And from what the councilor from Ward 1 stated, that 150 acres that was purchased with CPC funds cannot be used for any commercial entities. It's only the back portion of the 50 that were purchased with city funds, that is city land, that we're even discussing this. And I'm also very disturbed to see a number of circumstances that took place this past week. One of them is there was an anonymous letter that was distributed to the forestry area, and that was loaded with inaccuracies. And a second letter was distributed to hundreds of residents that appeared to be an official document, and it had a city seal on it. And I have a question, if it's probably based to Mr. President. Are you aware if that was an official council sanctioned document that went out?
It was not, as just requested by the at-large councilor from Weatherby Road. The official document that was presented to the public had an official seal on it, which can be presented by councils at times, but not anything that was voted or acted upon by this body.
So that was never voted or acted on.
That is correct.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And that's a good thing, because that was also fully loaded with inaccuracies. So, Mr. President, based on all the misinformation distributed in the city, I wish to repeat what I said in my opening statement. I would like to see a feasibility study done, and plain and simple, that just tells us what's possible on the back portion of the land. And I'd also like to state, if anyone knows where I live, it's approximately 500 yards from where we're talking about. And I certainly would not do anything that is going to bring rodents or disturbances or be harmful to my family. And I certainly wouldn't vote to do it to others. And I'd also like to address the public hearing. There was a request for a public hearing, and that was voted on and was also passed. So that will be coming. And the public hearing will take place long before the feasibility study is even completed. So everyone will have a chance to weigh in and receive all the proper information, and hopefully no more misinformation. We also have owned this property for 7 years. And if we've learned anything from that, we should have learned that government moves very slowly. So the residents do not have to worry about this being snuck in or fast-tracked. And I look forward to seeing what the outcome of the study is and all of the public input. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Blank. I do have a couple more speakers, and on that, I just want to ask that those that spoke before on our participants chat list, that you please lower your hand, because I'm trying to follow along with the current speakers. So if you've spoken first time around, please lower your hand. Next on my list is the Ward 6 Councilor, Councilor Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Like the at-large Councilor LeBlanc, I believe I live the closest to the current city yard, and I have not seen the letter, but from what I gather, there has been a lot of misinformation about what the city yard entails. I've never heard a complaint ever about smells, dust, traffic. I live 2 blocks away from the entrance. I mean, I think I'd be a pretty good authority on what goes on there. So again, I haven't seen the letter, but from what I've heard, it's inaccurate. And to mimic the at-large counselor, I would also not perpetrate something like that on anyone else in the city. What my concern is that a lot of the questions that people have would be answered by a feasibility study. So I will not thwart the committee chair's, request to recommit, but I do think allowing the feasibility study to go forward does not stop public hearings or anything of the sort. My concern is that, again, we have been, not as a body for 7 years, what has been done with the Fernald? Not a lot. Yes, we've made a couple of agreements as a body, but because of the amount of time it takes to get things done, I was hoping tonight that we can move forward with the feasibility study. And there is a possibility that the feasibility study would come back and said, no, you can't put CPW on that portion of the Fernald property. You know, that is a potential outcome. It would also lay out where, you know, where things would end up. If we need to delay a couple of weeks to do that, I'm not going to object, but I would strongly encourage, if at all possible, that we vote in favor of this tonight. And that does not preclude anyone from having a public hearing or hearing from the mayor at a future date. But I did want to echo what many of my colleagues have stated about misinformation and just a general anxiety that's been created unnecessarily in the city. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Durkee. First time around on my list, Councilor Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Certainly appreciate everything everyone has said about the project, the parcel, the fact that there are things that will be, steps that will be taken. I think in fairness for the people at home who may have looked at this docket without the benefit of any of the other information in terms of what the Fernald Use Committee has been working on, sees the words, recommends that a use of the portion of the non-CPA parcel of the former Fernald School for the CPW department be approved. Nowhere does it say feasibility study or anything like that. It sounds like this was a done deal. So it may just be a simple word change or a simple, you know, the fact that the matter has been recommitted probably helps us here. But I just want to point out that if I were on the outside looking in and I saw this, I would think the way everybody who wrote in was thinking. This is a done deal and I don't have a chance to say anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dunn. First time around, State Representative and at-large Councilor Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not going to reiterate what my other colleagues have said, but I agree with all of them in their comments. And, you know, just to say that I'm very disappointed with the actions of one particular councilor in this, in regards to this issue. And I believe that it's done real damage to the trust with the city council and the public and also the city. And even though the mayor has been in several times talking about this in great detail, I agree with the chairperson of the Fernald Use Committee that because of the actions of this one councilor sending out misinformation, to say it the most kindly way that I can, it's necessary for us to allow some time for the mayor to come in once again to talk about this issue and set the record straight with all of the residents whose anxiety, as my colleagues have said, has gone through the roof, which is very unfortunate to do at any time, to play on people's fears. And especially, you know, this in the times that we're in, we've just gone, we've just gone through so much with the public being played with with their fears, and to do it at the local level is, well, it's just very greatly disappointing. And especially during this time with everyone dealing with COVID and everything else. I hope that, that the chairperson of the Fernald Use Committee's motion will pass so that the mayor can come in once again and set the record straight. And so hopefully people will be paying attention, and we'll get the word from the mayor directly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Stanley. No further speakers on the motion.
I would like to speak, please.
All right, you didn't have your hand up. Councilor Darcy,
Thank you very
have the
much.
floor.
First off, I have every right to use the city seal as I am an elected Waltham City Councilor. I have a grave concern that the city is moving ahead with a major reuse of the Fernald site that the neighbors oppose. I'm just putting on my video here. Hold on a second. Moving the entire city's consolidated public works department and all their vehicles and all their materials from Lexington Street to the Fernald in North Waltham is a major change. The move would have a major impact to the neighborhood in the neighboring Girl Scouts of Eastern Massachusetts in terms of noise, lights, traffic on Waverly Oaks Road and Trapella Road. 18-wheel vehicles coming in and going out, both public and private, materials coming in and going out, catch basin cleaning, sand and salt sheds, emergency transfers. The site would require a zone change from conservation recreation. And without a citizen input hearing, that's not fair to the neighbors and homeowners of North Waltham. In essence, the neighbors from my discussions do not want the relocation of the CPW facility to Fernald, period. They bought their house in a residential neighborhood and they want it to remain a residential neighborhood. So I don't need to be lectured by any one of you. I'm representing the people that put me into office. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Darcy. No further speakers on the list. The motion is by Councilor McLaughlin for recommit. On the motion to recommit this matter to the committee of the whole. All in favor, say aye.
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 Oppose or object? There being none, this matter is referred back to and recommitted to the committee of the whole. Clerk, continue.
The next item, Mr. President, unfinished business and other business. There are tabled items.
Okay. Those matters are on the table.
I don't believe the loan authorization is ready for another reading. I would defer to the assistant city clerk who placed the ad, but my recollection is that that needs more time.
We won't be able to do that till December.
Okay. Wish of the committee with regards to city council business. No further items before the city council.
To adjourn.
Who said? On the motion to adjourn, I believe that was Councilor LaCava.
Yes, Mr. President.
On the motion to adjourn the meeting of the Waltham City Council on Monday, November 23rd, 2020 at 9:04 p.m. On the motion to adjourn, all in favor say aye.
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 Oppose or object? There being none, the Waltham City Council stands in adjournment on Monday evening, November 23rd at 9:04 p.m. Thank you all. Good night. Happy and safe Thanksgiving to all.
Thank you.
Take care.